Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake. I may actually do 2 videos today. I was really touched by a conversation I had with a young person, and I think I do want to revisit the second tape that I ever did, entitled Bisexuality. So I think it's time to revisit sexuality. I think I'll do that. But I'm going to do it separately, because it's too confusing. I have really been having a trippy time and a really great time, and I want to describe what's going on. I have found a really interesting video channel that produces amazing little videos on philosophers, and it's just the information is sterling, and it's just really nice to see full passages that are not paraphrased from these great thinkers. Okay, talking about the herd mentality, envy. I've been reading a lot and learning a lot, learning a greater appreciation for Nietzsche, and it just made me laugh. A couple of days ago I was driving and I was just thinking about my work and about my life and how things are going, and I giggled because the truth is, and I've had this realization before, and I've kind of done a high five about it publicly, that really, yeah, I'm a channeler, you better believe it. And I'm an author, a writer, and I write all kinds of stuff, baby. But I'm also a philosopher, dude. I mean, I think it's nice to finally gain some of the framework. What you see in front of you is a genius who didn't get an education. Okay? I really would have been it would have been more appropriate to house this brain and body in a college situation. It would have been really appropriate it would have been far more comfortable. Let's put it that way. I would have had a much more comfortable existence had I led an academic life. And I probably could have moved some incredible mountains as a philosopher and a thinker. But the question always comes, yeah, that's true. In retrospect, as a retrofit, true. Because I'm an intellectual. I'm part of the intelligentsia. I'm a philosopher. I'm an academic, basically. But there's a reason I walked away from academia, you know. It wasn't just because a boyfriend told me to hit the road and I decided to go to nursing school. Yeah, that's the party line, and that's what happened. I got dumped and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I kind of fell apart, so I thought, well, I'll let my mom scoop me up and put me the next place, and it was nursing school. Well, good. And I landed firmly and deeply into the masses. I did not rise above and hobnob with the elite and continue my education. So I stand or sit before you as a creative genius without letters. Oh well. So I've always known this, and that's the same thing that happened in nursing school. I went 2 years. I have an associate's degree. Yeah, I practiced at a very high level for 32 years on a 2-year degree. And I sat and took those boards along with the people who went to 4 years and had, I think, very different education than mine. And I aced the exam. So I thought to myself, why would I want to go and do a redo of my education? It was perfect. I aced it. It's good enough for me. So I didn't even go that far. And I have shunned higher education simply because I recognized that it required behavioral change, and it was social engineering. And if I wanted to go further in education, I'd have to agree to be more inculcated into the societal structure, and I didn't agree. So I stayed outside of it and just practiced nursing, hand-to-hand combat, and stayed alive. So that's what I did. And now I'm here. And yeah, God only knows what humanity would have gotten from me had I remained in academia with this natural bent of mine. But I wonder sometimes if this natural bent, this wild streak, this rebellious child would have died somehow in that environment. I found, pursuing an English degree, I began to see that it didn't make a lot of sense because it was all just regurgitation of other people's feelings, and it was not about creating. It was about talking about creators, and I found that to be derivative. So, and sort of like mental masturbation. And so, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that I tried to find a way to get through it, and I did, and I stayed outside. I never felt like an insider, and I always felt really bad about that, and I guess the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because I know my work has been, and I've complained about it, there is running alongside all of this almost grotesque sense of apology. And I really think that a part of this, okay, here's the deal, guys. When I look at these videos about philosophers who have really come to be very powerful critics of mass culture and society, and great observers of the dangers of the herd mentality, when all these great thinkers are flashed on the screen, they're all dudes, they all have dicks. None of them can give birth. None of them have been tasked with taking care of an infant when everyone else is scattered. None of them are mothers. There were a few layers I had to break, because indeed I am a philosopher. Indeed I am a critic, an observer, a keen mind. But the truth is, I filter everything through an esoteric heart and mind. I don't see things simply as mechanistic. There's something far, far bigger going on. So not only have I mastered a lot of what is deemed conventional and indeed unconventional, but there are lands that have not been discovered or even discussed by these fellas because they can't gain entry. They're not able. And there is a depth that is missing. And you don't have to like that if that triggers you, but I know, I've seen it. And I know. Women, the female biology, the female energetics, the female biology. There's a difference. Women are the creators. And there are some things that are not spoken in philosophical circles, academic circles, and would be seen as anathema. And that's one of those thoughts. Had I a PhD or a PsyD or something like that behind my name, then when I make that kind of pronouncement, it has more weight. But I see it. And I've been talking about it, banging that drum for a long time. So I see that these fellas have done a very good job of warning us about the abuses of power, because they're all about power, and they have a different kind of consciousness than women do. Sorry, guys. The astrological, when you look at astrology, I heard, I think it was Rick Levine say, we got to figure this out, guys, because all of these mythologies are based on male psychology. male conflicts, the masculine hero's journey and all that stuff, devoid of caretaking. And look at how women are treated right now in America by the government. So, here's the thing. I think that it's really inappropriate to not see the masses and what's happening societally, to just dismiss that. And it really worries me when I hear this in the New Age community, and it worries me that I have taken that on and internalized it. That somehow I'm not advanced, or I really haven't gotten it because I'm paying attention. No, I'm paying attention. I don't believe it, but I'm paying attention to what's going on with people who don't have a clue about any of this ascension work, who are in the herd mentality, who are distressed, feeling helpless, feeling resentment, feeling confusion. You think that's not happening? Look at the acting out. It's industrial grade. And so this is a time for people to come and meet their maker, to go really within. And I want to read a quote that really sealed it for me in a way. It was something that Jung wrote. But there's a new psychology and there's a new way of looking at things, and it is not even going to be born from this. It's going to be it is from dismissal of understanding and compassion for, and dismissal of this brutal, masculine, patriarchal, my power's on the outside and you can I must give it to you, and what you do with it, I don't have a say in. All that stuff. All the social engineering we've been part of, it's been invisible, or waking up to. It requires the individual to step into their own uniqueness. And I think you can see how uncomfortable that is. Because I have people in my inner circle who needed me to remain in the herd. And if I don't have the same values, then I can't exist. There's fear for survival. So no marriage, no savings, no nice, sweet, toasty relationship with an employer without a net, without approval, without permission. And I'm not the only one. What's fascinating to me is that my son has, a great variety of friends, and none of them are brought up with religion. They're not religious people. They haven't been inculcated. Most of them have had to drop out of regular school because they don't fit in. And the system actually was harmful to them. Literally harmful. And so that's why I have hope. I see us who were more inculcated in the system waking up and going, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold the phone. This isn't even me. I don't agree. And I'm okay with that, And these kids, they don't have to work through all of that. It's pretty amazing. And I'm really glad about it. And most of them come from broken homes, quote unquote. Most of them live with their mothers. And so, and I don't think that this is something that's really outside of the norm. If it's happening to me and over a dozen other people, I think it's pretty significant. I think that it points to what's going on under the hood. You're welcome. A lot of us have done that. A lot of us in our 50s. Just, we never really drank the Kool-Aid, and we just sort of under the radar went ahead and reproduced, and then inculcated our kids a different way, and they're freer. So I don't really have to focus too much on looking back and saying, yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah, that's bullshit. Oh yeah, I can see that bullshitology still happening. Because I'll tell you, then this is current events, and I don't have a problem with that. Have you noticed what's happening? In very, very early on, I said on camera that I could see this was going to boil down to the state level. And I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be mobilized to get into politics, local and national politics, as a result of what's going on here. Because we've been infiltrated. And so I do want to mention, I did a very long and arduous video that I did not release on the Mandela effect and current events. And I will mention that I won't bring up the Mandela effect because it confuses people, but we have a decision in front of us. Either it's really okay for this global meld to occur, and we're okay with continuing in a fascist way, because really America keeps saying, well, we're not like Russia. Oh, really? Have you noticed what's happened the last 30 years? How impoverished the masses are? How oppressed their speech is? How afraid they are of protesting? And now under Bush, and since then, the torture is acceptable, legal. Disappearing people in America is legal. Habeas corpus is suspended. We were ripe for this. And Bush laid the groundwork. And if you do your due diligence and your homework, you realize this coup has been underway for a really long time. And it's really just the industrialists putting their flag where they want, and doing things, and it really is a very mechanistic way. It's a way, and it all makes sense if you can see this through the eyes of someone who sees human beings as human fodder. Okay, and then it all makes sense. Why would they want to defund health insurance? Well, they're not doing it to everyone. They're only doing it to the ones who don't produce very much, who are a drag on the system, who are a drain financially. It doesn't really matter if there's suffering involved. Those people don't make the books add up right. Then it all makes sense. And you can stop taking it personally and realize that you're being seen as not certainly an individual with feelings and needs, but as a piece of property. And, there's a lot that could be said about that. But I think that it's hopeful to realize that the media has begun to realize they're being told lies. They're being looked right in the eyes, and they're being told absolute whoppers. And Rachel last night, Rachel Maddow, was so cute because she finally admitted it. It really, we have to just see this as a silent movie. What comes out of their mouths does not matter. That is finally abundantly clear. Well, good. I'm glad you finally figured that out. They're lying sacks of you-know-what. And it is to their benefit to have everyone run around and try and recreate the timeline of what they've done. Those little imps know what they've done. God, it's such an act of arrogance. Being tricked like that and being deceived. It's just like, fuck you guys. You know what's going on, and if you had any balls at all, you just lay it out. There's that thing of, well, it's a lot easier to ask forgiveness than permission. Well, that's what's happened. It's nasty. So we as a country have some decisions to make, don't we? Ooh. And that's where I see the Mandela effect kind of working out pretty neat. Because I think it's been going on a long time, but have you noticed it's only in 2017 that everybody's talking about it? It's not everybody. It's the ones who are sensitive to it. But it's happening. So I'm wondering, okay, well, there's a big decision here. Either it's okay or it's not. And if it's not, if we as a group decide that because we didn't give consent, we're not going to have this, thank you. Thank you anyway. Then there's going to be a lot of research. There's going to be a lot of removals, impeachments, proceedings, reporting, and change. And if people are up to it, great. I think that's what's ahead of us. So good. We're on the precipice of a lot. It's much, much bigger and darker and dirtier and more obvious than I think any of us thought. And what I find the last few days is, oh boy, nobody can keep a secret. Isn't that funny? And even the people who are really in the game, they're charged with keeping things secret. They're not agreeing to those rules. So my question is, what else are they hiding? If the son of the president thought it was appropriate to release those emails that land him in a room as a friend to the, quote, crown prosecutor, Sheikha, Putin. If they're willing to admit that, do you have any idea what it is we're going to be learning? How deep it goes? How big this is? And how many people are going to be implicated? That's heavy lifting, guys. And so I've always felt like I have to apologize to the spiritual community for having chops in geopolitics. Well, just don't mind this. Don't mind my awareness of what's going on in the masses. Don't mind my understanding of mass psychology and the slave mentality and this lower consciousness. Just don't mind that. Let's all just do the sweetness and light thing. Well, I think that's a sickness. But I also know that focusing on that herd mentality long term isn't wise, because it's all illusion. What's really happening here? Well, that's up to you individually to decide. But for me, I know full well that my lenses are that of esoterics and spirituality and ascension. That's how I interpret everything. So my perspective is usually not in the moment. When I'm looking at something, I'm able to, at least, as are my friends, as are you, able to see above at the template level and then at the galactic level, perspective. Perspective is something that I feel is as necessary to creation and growth as paradox. Perspective is everything for me. That's why I seek out new information for new and bigger perspectives. If I can see more, I want to. If I can make more connections, I want to. If I can see more patterns, it's helpful. And so, for me, overall, the overarching pattern is not, the individual against society, or dudes against girls, or whatever. It's breaking from magnetic coding and keying. It's breaking from a sort of quarantine energetically. And it's realizing that this has all been a bit of a hallucination, a bad dream, a nightmare. It's optional, in other words. Yeah, your ass might be firmly in physical reality, being buffeted by people whose philosophies and desires are perhaps far different than yours. That doesn't matter. And that's what's missing from a lot of this philosophy. Yes, there's the cry for the individual to rise up and become, self-actualized. Sure, isn't that the idea? And the idea is that that is actually like a cancer to the body politic. We can't have that. Those cancers need to be cut out and removed. So, that's its own little psychodrama playing out. But that psychodrama is one that's been going on for 2,000, 3,000 years, where the male is in charge and the female is not and is silent. Well, look at what we've done with that. It's pretty nasty. It's pretty ridiculous. And it's ending. It's ending. It's ended for the most part. A lot of people don't know that. And so, with the Mandela effect, it's always like at the beginning is, oh, well, I heard it was all manufactured and it's nefarious and it's through CERN and the D-Wave computers and there's all this negative, nasty stuff going on and we're so hopeless and so powerless, la 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 la. We're just being fucked with, la la la. Now, can I just say I think the Mandela effect, here's what it's doing. Here's the bottom line. Here's what it says, kind of. This is the subtitles that you should see reading when you see any video on the Mandela effect or you notice it in your life. Like when you open your Bible, go open the Bible to Matthew 6 and read the Lord's Prayer and tell me. Go to King James or NIV or any of them and tell me, is that what you grew up with? Is that the Bible you read and read the Lord's Prayer the way it used to be? And then tell me if it's real or not. So I urge you to do that. It's freaky. All the Bibles are different now. And they mention the Lord's Prayer mentions the evil one. It's like, really, you guys? Don't you think that's kind of over the top? Come on. Really? We're going to go there? So I'm not really sure what that's about. That's an interesting. But I don't see it as, I don't think that it is from human beings being naughty. I think really the subtitling should be, notice you're choosing, there's different realities to choose from. And reality is not static. It's fluid. And you may not understand what's creating the bifurcation. But notice that you see it. That's the point. Notice that the ground beneath you, psychologically, just jumped. And what was once real is no longer real. Welcome to the new earth. I think. So the question is, are you going to assign a nefarious, negative, scary reason for that? Or are you going to unplug from the insanity and say, oh my gosh, will you look at that? Evidence, physical evidence of two different timelines. huh, it's really happening. Check it out. And that's where I think we should go with it, because I think that the CERN D-wave stuff, okay, maybe there are nasty people who are doing this. It seems a little bit weird, but I think it's good news. It really depends on whether you think you have power individually or not, doesn't it? Whether it's possible for you to be messed with at that level. And then it brings up those feelings of, well, what else have I been messed? What else in my reality has been messed with? What else has been manufactured or tinkered with? And when it hits home, when it's on your apple cider vinegar bottle or your candy bar or your home improvement store or your auto parts store, is this a better reality? That was my question. Is this one that has more light? And I was scared for a little bit that it didn't. But it was manufactured by somebody who wasn't in my corner. That's sad. That's where I went with it at first. It had been presented to me by someone who was of the belief that this was not good for us. And that's great. I got to work through that. It's evidence of a timeline jump. And it's been going on. Obviously, this whole shift has been going on actively since '89, since the convergence. So let's drop the fear. Let's drop the cast of characters that involve draped, dark figures who have motives that are unkind. There's so much dystopian stuff going on right now in entertainment, which I think showcases this fear of the state and the realization there is control. Well, doy. Come on. It doesn't take an Einstein to figure that out. Read the read the work of Horace Mann. Read the work of the people who put the educational system in place in America. If we're waking up from a collective, imposed, unconscious zombiehood, well, good. And if there have to be scary characters who have bad intentions to get this play to move forward, okay, fine. I think this is about individual empowerment. I think it's about acknowledgement that the female has been left behind and is a massively important part of this and has to be brought into a position of honor as the nurturer, the creator, the caretaker, and the one who's got a main line to a higher perspective, and who's capable of something that it seems that those who are in power right now are incapable, and that is compassion. So what I'm really feeling great about is that I don't feel like apologizing about any of this anymore. I'm not going to apologize. And if I am found offensive, well, why wouldn't I be? And it's a really great feeling, because I know myself to be kind, intelligent, insightful, perceptive, wise, and true. And so if what comes out of my mouth shakes you up, okay. Doesn't shake me up. And if it does, I've worked through it enough that I've resolved it, and I'm giving it to you as a gift. The resolution. Because in addition to all the other awesome things I am also a philosopher. And I have chops, and I may not have the benefit of a formal education. Neither do I have the detritus and the need to believe. That the old way is the only way. I'm grateful for the men who have broken through and have been spokespeople for this time. Of course they had to be men. Of course they had to be men. And I'm not disparaging them. So much has been given to us by men who stood apart and stood tall and spoke their mind. Their voices were let through, and in this day and age, now ours can be let through too. Many of us have incarnated from lifetimes where these realizations and these ways are still fresh. Many of us are open enough that our Akash is pouring out information from lifetimes of great wisdom and power. There is no stopping this. It has nothing to do with these states, these organizations, and these truly morally bankrupt institutions. It's like a pest, a nag, but it's important to identify as a part of the psyche, a part of the awakening, and that shadow work and this darkness and this depravity is something that needs to be acknowledged as not only out there but inside. And so I think that with the spiritual community, there are people who are so advanced. They're my friends. They see things like me, but less emotionally. They can see all of this, and they're not as triggered by it emotionally. But I'm a fiery, passionate one, and I'm an expressor. So here I am talking about it with passion and fire. And they simply go, yeah, I know, but that's not important. I'm stuck here in the cauldron explaining it, because that's what I signed up to do. And I don't mind. I'm very much looking forward to resolution. And that is happening more and more every single day. I wake up with really, really big realizations, which I then forget again. But they're very profound and helpful. And I know from personal experience that then my day will, and my reality will, clang with that information if I don't hang on to it consciously. So to end, I'll tell you energetically what I'm seeing I saw it yesterday. It's very interesting. About 30 years ago, when I first started working, I would use life as laboratory, but it was like I had 1 hour of sanity, and then I was dropped into madness for 7 days, and I'd come back into sanity and go back into madness, and it was like that. That was the ratio. And then, and I kept using those keys and those helpers that for that 1 hour, and then I would delve back into madness. And then with the teachers, I had a mentor, and my life got real sparkly because the things I was learning with the teachers, highly esoteric, and confirmed by the thinkers of the day, and not from around here. My life was a laboratory, but it was far more integrated, and I didn't feel like I was being dropped back into darkness. And then I had to crawl back to the light for an hour and then drop back. It was more like working with, applying the light, and that it made sense. There were hooks to this light, and it could be, I could have very light-filled experiences. And now the pace is so intense that literally I want to report this, because we're talking really like miracle level stuff. I was in the middle of a couple of things that were pretty intense, and I was in my car crying driving because I was so distressed by this one thing. It was like a crescendo of a very large psychodrama. And I realized what I needed and how miraculous it would be if that came to be. And my body flooded with this relief because it was a brand new reality. It was unthinkable, impossible, but exactly what I needed. And by nightfall, I got the call offering me that reality in which I now function. That's amazing. And I've been getting hits of this before, this instant manifestation, and I've been cautioned that it's really, now is the time. It's really time to get in. The power that's available and the speed with which the things can happen is phenomenal. And if your heart isn't right, and you're not in alignment, you can manifest a lot of stuff that is going to teach you really, really, really quick what alignment is. That's all. Good. The lessons are extreme, and the days and the nights are extreme, and so extremely gentle and peaceful that it's just really shocking. I'm shocked with the absence of thought patterns that were home. They're no longer around. I can't access them. It's harder and harder to upset myself. It's harder and harder to believe anything other than everything is really awesome. So to end, I wrote a post on Facebook yesterday, and I asked, so what happens if you can't convince yourself anymore that life is shitty? What happens then? And I've talked about it. One around you are people who are suffering, crying out, and at times retaliating because you're happy and they're not. Well, welcome to 2017. Welcome to the new earth. Welcome to the split. Maybe there will be an earth where there's a Putin and Trump are BFFs, and then one where everyone goes, hey, I've always wanted to be a senator. This is bullshit. I'm not. We need general elections. We need to stop this stuff. We need to unplug the banks now. We need to unplug this now. Maybe. And if you're in Trump land, maybe I'll come visit you sometime. And maybe I'm in Trump land and you're in the other land. I don't know. Or maybe we all do this together. Wouldn't that be neat? Let's do it together. Let's not be separatist. Let's not divide anymore. Let's imagine we're going to walk through this together. Further, let's imagine that everyone wins. And compassionate action is taken. How about that? Doesn't that just douse the flames of passion that rise up when you hear about some of this stuff? I think this is very valid and perfect and true, and I'm going to publish it with pride. And then I'm going to get some coffee, and then I'm going to talk about sex, baby. Because, if you don't think this stuff boils down into your living room, you're wrong. If you don't think it boils down into your bedroom, you're wrong. Unless you've done your work, you're acting out. Is it your sexuality or is it someone else's? Is it your reality or is it someone else's? Is it your truth or is it someone else's? So thank you for letting me sing out mine. And no longer am I worried about anybody saying, owie, ow, hey, don't do that. Well, okay, fine, you can say that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to keep on talking if that's all right with you. It's my responsibility. It's my joy. It's my honor. And it's my job. Namaste.